Marriage wasn't supposed to end like this, or so I thought. Aaron and I were the couple people envied. At 35, I had carved out a decent life as an assistant editor at a publishing house. Aaron, at 33, was the heart of a private clinic as their administrator. We weren't tied down by kids or chasing impossible career goals. Instead, we chose to live for the moment. We traveled as much as our schedules allowed, indulged in spontaneous weekends away, and treated life like one big adventure. Our friends teased us about our Peter Pan syndrome, but I liked the idea of staying young and carefree for as long as possible. Erin did too, or so I thought. Her 5-week trip to the Caribbean with her girlfriends was one of those living, life decisions we made without a second thought. I missed her like hell while she was gone. But when she came back, it felt like we'd hit a second honeymoon phase. We couldn't keep our hands off each other. Every touch, every kiss was electric. We spent our nights tangled in each other, rediscovering parts of ourselves that had gotten lost in the daily grind. For a few glorious weeks, it felt like we'd stumbled back into the beginning of our love story. But as life often does, the magic began to fade. Work deadlines loomed, the holiday season crept in, and soon our intimate evenings were replaced by late nights at our respective jobs. The connection was still there, but it wasn't quite the same. Christmas Eve was supposed to be our time to recharge, a quiet night in with hot cocoa, a blanket, and old holiday movies. The kind of night where nothing mattered but us. Halfway through It's a Wonderful Life, Erin turned to me with a strange expression, like she'd been holding something in for days. "What do you think about open marriages?" I blinked at her, unsure if I'd heard her correctly. "Open marriages? Like seeing other people?" She nodded, her gaze steady, though there was a nervous tension in her voice. "Yeah. You know, some couples say it helps keep things exciting. It's supposed to strengthen relationships." I stared at her, caught between curiosity and disbelief. Erin wasn't the type to bring something like this up out of the blue. "Why are you asking?" I asked cautiously. She shrugged, trying to seem nonchalant. "I don't know. I've just been thinking about it. We've always been open-minded, right? I thought maybe we could explore the idea." The thought of someone else touching her, being with her, sent a cold knot twisting in my gut. But there was another part of me, the part that feared complacency, that whispered, "What if she's right?" "It's interesting," I admitted, "but I'd need some time to think about it." A small smile tugged at her lips. "That's all I wanted to hear. I'm not saying we have to do anything. I just wanted to know where you stood." Her words should have put me at ease, but instead, they clung to me like a fog I couldn't shake. The following Saturday, Erin was out running errands while I stayed home to clean up. Her phone buzzed repeatedly on the kitchen counter, lighting up with one notification after another. I tried to ignore it at first, but when the vibrations kept coming, I glanced at the screen. The sender's name was Dr. Bennett, her boss. My pulse quickened as I read the preview of the messages. "I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. I keep thinking about the way your hair smelled. God, I miss you." The mug in my hand slipped and shattered on the floor. My brain refused to process what I'd just read. This had to be a misunderstanding. It had to be. Before I could stop myself, I picked up her phone and unlocked the screen. I didn't know the password, but the notification previews told me everything I needed to know. The texts were unmistakably intimate. My breath came in shallow gasps, as the room seemed to spin around me. When Erin came home an hour later, she found me standing in the kitchen, the broken mug still at my feet, her phone clenched in my hand. "What the hell is this, Erin?" My voice shook with barely contained fury as I held up the phone. Her eyes widened in panic and she went pale. She opened her mouth to say something, but no words came out. Finally, she stammered, "It's not what you think." "Then explain it," I growled. Explain why your boss is texting you about missing you and the smell of your hair. Her silence was deafening. My heart sank as realization settled over me like a lead blanket. Tell me the truth, I demanded. Tears welled in her eyes. She swallowed hard, her voice barely above a whisper. I slept with him. Time seemed to stop. My breath caught in my throat. The woman I'd built my life around, the woman I trusted more than anyone, had slept with someone else. You what? I said, the words sounding foreign in my mouth. I didn't mean for it to happen, she sobbed. It just did. I was confused and I thought, you thought what? I snapped, cutting her off. I found myself staring at the family photos on the wall, the ones where we were smiling and happy. They felt like lies now, carefully curated illusions of a life that didn't exist anymore. On the third night after everything came to light, I finally sat across from her at the kitchen table. She was a wreck, red-rimmed eyes, her hair pulled into a messy bun. Her hands shook as she held her coffee. "I've been thinking," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. She looked up, hopeful. "We can't fix this." Her face crumbled. No, don't say that, please." "You slept with 2 men at the same time," I continued, ignoring her pleading eyes. "Not once. Not by accident. You made a series of choices, over and over, to betray me. And for what? To feel powerful? To feel alive? How do you even come back from that?" She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand away. "I'm not trying to excuse it," she whispered. I'm trying to explain how I got here." "But you don't get to rewrite the rules of our marriage because you're stressed or drunk or chasing some fantasy," I snapped. My voice rose, the dam breaking. "You broke everything, and now you want me to be the one to pick up the pieces? I'm not your goddamn safety net." She sobbed quietly, tears dripping onto the table. A part of me hated myself for how cold I sounded. But another part of me, the part that felt gutted and raw, didn't care. I was tired of protecting her feelings. What about my pain? "I trusted you," I said, my voice soft but heavy with bitterness. "I trusted you with my heart, my life, with our children's future, and you threw it away for some meaningless thrill." Her sobs grew louder, but I didn't stop. She needed to hear it. "You know what the worst part is?" I continued. "I was proud of you. I was so damn proud of everything you accomplished. I stood behind you when you needed to work late, when you needed me to take over with the kids so you could chase your career. I never resented you for any of it. And this is how. You repay me?" She looked at me, her face twisted with anguish. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she said, her voice shaking. "But please, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Just don't give up on us." "Us?" I laughed bitterly. "There is no us anymore. There's just me trying to figure out how the hell I'm supposed to move on from the wreckage you left behind." She covered her face with her hands and cried harder. I stood up, grabbed my keys, and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she called after me, desperation in her voice. "To clear my head," I muttered without looking back. I drove for hours, ending up at the edge of town near a quiet lake we used to visit when we were dating. I sat on a bench and watched the water ripple under the cold wind. My mind raced with questions that had no answers. How had we gotten here? How could I ever trust her again? Did I even want to try? The truth settled over me like a weight I couldn't shake. I couldn't stay with her. The damage was too deep. No amount of apologies could change what she'd done. Even if I somehow forgave her, I'd never forget. Every time she touched me, I'd remember how those other men had touched her. Every time she said, "I love you," I'd wonder if she meant it, or if it was just another lie. When I got home, she was sitting on the couch clutching her phone, as though she'd been waiting for me to call or text. Her face lit up when I walked in, but I didn't give her the reassurance she was hoping for. "We're done," I said simply. Her eyes widened in horror. "No, please don't do this." "I deserve better," I said firmly. "The kids deserve better. I can't be the man I need to be for them if I'm spending every second wondering what." "You're hiding. You made your choices, and now I'm making mine." She fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands. I watched her for a long moment, feeling nothing but exhaustion. The divorce process was brutal. She begged for reconciliation at first, but when she realized I wasn't changing my mind, her tears turned into venom. The woman I once adored was gone, replaced by someone bitter and resentful. She told her family a twisted version of the truth. But I didn't care anymore. I wasn't interested in defending myself. I only cared about protecting the kids. The last time we stood in the same room was the day we signed the final papers. She looked at me one last time, her eyes hollow. "I'll never forgive myself," she whispered. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. After everything was finalized, I moved into a small apartment nearby to be close to my children. The nights were the hardest, silent, empty, and cold. Sometimes I'd sit alone with a glass of whiskey, replaying everything in my head until it hurt too much to keep going. People always say time heals all wounds. But what they don't tell you is that some scars never really fade. They just become a part of you, a permanent reminder of what you've survived. My wife, my ex-wife, made her choice, and I made mine. She wanted power, she wanted to feel alive, but in the end, all she did was destroy the one thing that was real, and I'm still picking up the pieces.